The storm had just passed, but the sky remained strangely bright, the kind of daytime light that makes everything feel exposed, every fear, every truth, every impossible hope. In front of the glass mansion belonging to billionaire Marcellus Reeve, a trembling 19-year-old girl stood clutching her backpack, her eyes burning with a mixture of desperation and determination. Her clothes were simple, her hair tied back in a loose braid that she'd done in a hurry before running all the way here. Her name was Anais Vila, the maid's daughter who rarely dared to speak in Marcellus's presence. But today, her voice refused to stay silent. Because inside that mansion, lying in a specialized medical chair, was Marcellus's mother, once a vibrant woman, now unable to walk after a devastating fall, and Anais, trembling yet unflinching, looked straight into the man's unreadable eyes and said the words that would change all their lives. Sir, I can make your mother walk again. If this story's opening touched even a bit of your heart, please tap like, leave a comment, share this video with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to Kindly Tube if you believe kindness deserves a second chance. What happened next was nothing short of a miracle wrapped inside struggle, sacrifice, and secrets that none of them expected. Anais had grown up in the servants' quarters behind the estate, raised by her mother Marina Vila, who had worked for the Reeves for over a decade. Anais wasn't just a maid's daughter, she was a quiet, observant soul who spent her free hours reading borrowed medical books, watching therapy videos on an old phone, and practicing techniques on makeshift tools. Her dream had always been to become a licensed neuromuscular therapist, but dreams require money. Money her family never had. So she studied in silence, learned in silence, and hoped in silence until the accident happened. Marcellus's mother, Evelyn Reeve, had slipped on the marble stairs during daytime and damaged her spine. The best specialists in the city tried, failed, and finally declared she would likely never walk again. Marcellus, one of the most powerful businessmen in the country, who could solve almost anything with money, found himself helpless, reduced to watching the woman who raised him lose the one thing she treasured most, independence. It shattered something in him. The world began seeing him as colder, more distant, more ruthless. But the truth was simpler, he was breaking quietly. Anais saw that pain from a distance throughout the following weeks. She heard Marina talk about how the rehabilitation team was giving up, how Mr. Reeve barely slept, how Evelyn's eyes dimmed more every day. And Anais couldn't bear it. Not when she believed, even if only with a fragile hope, that something could still be done. That belief dragged her feet to the mansion, made her knock on the door with shaking hands, and made her speak the impossible words to Marcellus. When Marcellus first heard her offer, he almost walked away. To him, it sounded like the naive claim of a child. His voice was low, tired, rough as he asked, "Anais, do you understand what you're saying?" Even the experts couldn't. "I know," she whispered, her heart hammering. "But I've been studying for years. I've been practicing techniques, researching treatments that haven't been considered yet. I'm not promising miracles, sir. I'm saying, please let me try." Marcellus stared at her, stunned by the fire in her eyes he'd seen shyly lowered for years. Maybe he should have refused. Maybe hope was too dangerous. Maybe giving her a chance would only end in more heartbreak. But something in Anais's voice, some raw, unfiltered sincerity, etched itself into him, and so, against every logical thought, he said, "Fine. 1 week. No guarantees. But do no harm. If she feels pain, you stop immediately." Anais nodded, almost collapsing with relief. The first session began the same afternoon. Evelyn Reeve, gentle and kind despite her pain, gave the young girl a weak smile. Her voice was soft as she said, "My dear, you don't have to push yourself. I don't want to be a burden." "You're not," Anais whispered, tears already forming. "I want to help." Anais used techniques she had practiced secretly for months, pressure point stimulations, micro-movements, neuromuscular activation routines she had studied from the limited resources she found. She worked with patience, almost reverence, as if she were painting hope back into Evelyn's body. The first day brought small responses, tiny twitches in parts of the leg that had been still for weeks. Marcellus watched silently from the corner of the room, arms crossed tightly, his face unreadable. But his eyes followed every movement Anais made, observing her dedication, her knowledge, her gentleness. Day by day, little improvements began to appear. A slight shift in ankle movement. A faint flex of the knee. A moment where Evelyn felt warmth in her leg for the first time since the accident. All small, all fragile, but real. Anais pushed herself harder than she had in her entire life. She studied late into the night, trying new combinations, adjusting her approaches, listening to Evelyn's body as if it were speaking a language only she could hear. She barely slept, barely ate, living only on hope, determination, and the fear of failing the woman she had admired quietly for years. Marcellus saw her exhaustion. He saw her hands trembling during sessions, her steps unsteady, her breath shaky. He brought her food without saying a word. He offered her breaks she refused. He watched her transform from the maid's timid daughter into someone whose resilience commanded respect, and slowly, he found himself believing. By the fifth day, something extraordinary happened. When Anais lifted Evelyn's leg to begin a routine, Evelyn let out a sudden gasp. "My foot, Anais, I can feel your hand. I can feel pressure." Marcellus stepped forward, stunned. "Mother? Are you sure?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Yes. I can feel it." Anais's hands flew to her mouth as she cried silently, overwhelmed, but the true breakthrough came on the seventh day. It was a bright, peaceful afternoon. The room felt lighter, filled with soft rays of daytime sun that fell across Evelyn's legs. Anais positioned her carefully, instructing her to try shifting her weight forward, and then, it happened. Evelyn's right leg trembled, then straightened. She pushed down harder, her foot, once lifeless, pressed into the floor. "Anais," she whispered, emotions breaking in her voice. I'm doing it." Marcellus froze. His breath caught, and then, with Anais supporting her on one side and Marcellus on the other, Evelyn slowly, painfully, but unmistakably, stood up for the first time in months. A cry escaped Evelyn's lips, a sound of joy, disbelief, and freedom. Marcellus pulled her into a trembling embrace, his tears falling onto her shoulder. And Anais, shaking, stepped back, letting them have their moment. Marcellus turned to her, speechless, overwhelmed. "Anais, I don't know how you did this, but thank you." His voice broke before he could finish, but the story didn't end with that miracle. Because when the city heard about Evelyn's unexpected recovery, reporters flooded the gates, experts demanded explanations, and rehabilitation centers tried to claim credit, but Marcellus knew the truth. And he stood by it. He publicly credited Anais, not as a maid's daughter, not as a charity case, but as the gifted young woman whose intelligence, passion, and belief had accomplished what trained specialists couldn't. He offered her a full scholarship. He offered her a new life, and most importantly, he offered her the respect she had always deserved, acknowledging her as someone extraordinary. Anais accepted the scholarship with shaking hands, her mother sobbing as she hugged her. Her dream of medical training was no longer a distant hope. It was real. It was happening, but what Anais didn't expect was the growing warmth in Marcellus's eyes whenever he looked at her now. Not the coldness he once carried, but admiration, gratitude, and something softer still. Something that hinted that perhaps her presence had healed more than just his mother, perhaps she had healed him. As Anais prepared to leave for her classes, Evelyn hugged her tightly and whispered, "You didn't just help me walk again, my dear, you helped this family stand again." If this story touched your heart, please like the video, comment your feelings, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Kindly Tube for more emotional stories that restore faith in goodness.